Good morning, dear students. So we are continuing with the induction session of 2019 in Guru Nanak IHM Hotel Management. This is a world-class induction for the students. And today we have Master Chef Karl Guggenmos. He has served at Johnson & Wales University in Providence, Rhode Island since 1988 and is currently the University Dean of Culinary Department. He was certified as a Global Master Chef by the World Association of Chefs Societies in 2008. Previously to his tenure at Johnson & Wales University, Dean Guggenmos has extensively culinary experience across the United States as well as in Germany. Professionally, Dean Guggenmos is currently involved on multiple boards, including Tyson Farbcheck, Christian Chefs Academy, the Salvation Army, Tulane University Medical School, Teaching Kitchen, Starbucks, Taste Masters, and serves as the chair of the National Certification Commission, ACF. Dean Guggenmos has been a board member of the Institute of Culinary Arts of Germany since 2007. He is a member of the VKD German Chefs Association and has served as a member of the International Food and Beverage Forum for over 10 years. Dean Guggenmos has participated in judging many prestigious domestic and international culinary competitions, including as tasting judge at the Bocuse d'Or in Istanbul, Turkey, and just recently as a judge at the International Chaisen de Rotisseurs Young Commis competition, also in Istanbul, where chefs from more than 20 nations competed. In addition to being involved in various global keynote speaking engagements, Dean Guggenmos actively participated in consulting projects throughout the country and throughout the globe. So we are happy today. We have Chef Karl Guggenmos. He is the Master Chef, Global Master Chef, and awarded by World Association of Chef Society. So we are really honored and privileged that Chef Karl Guggenmos is here with us. So we'd like to hear from the chef. Thank you, Chef. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean, for the...
Before starting the conversation, we'll start the lamp lighting ceremony. Then we'll start. Okay, thank you.
What are we doing?
Lamp lighting. So, thank you, Chef. So now I'll invite Chef to say something for our students. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. That's very interesting. Never done this before, so my light didn't really want to stay on, but that's okay. Well, good morning. Good morning. All right, that means you're awake, but we try that again at least 4 more times, so I know you're really here. Good morning. Good morning. That's better. Well, it's a real pleasure to be here. This is my second time to this great school, and I hope I pronounce it correctly. Nanak Guru, is that correct? Sort of, close. My fifth time to India. I love coming here. Every year I come, I'm hoping that the traffic has gotten better, but it hasn't. But other than that, I really love coming here. I like the people. I like the excitement and the growth that I see. I see almost 800 new freshmen coming here at this school. That's wonderful. I really think you have chosen a great career. And my charge this morning was to give you some advice and some inspiration. What I will not do is talk a lot about the things that I've done professionally, all the achievements. You can go online and read this. That's really not the most important thing in my life anymore. What's important to me is what does the next generation, what are you going to contribute, what you are going to do, and how can I, at this age, give you advice that's still relevant to what you can do. So we can do that together today. We will have some question and answers toward the end, and think about what you want to know. You can ask me anything. The only thing, two things I do not get into. Number one, I don't have any money, so don't ask about money. My kids still ask me, but the second thing is I don't get involved. I never did with students. They used to come to my house, we cooked together, but I never got involved in if they have problems with girlfriend and boyfriend, because that's a no-win situation for an outsider. So you're on your own with that. Everything else you can ask me. But I thought about what was I going to say this morning and give you the advice that you need as you start this career in this great industry. And the only thing that I really thought would make sense is to look at life in general and sort of walk you through looking at life as a journey. I'm nearly 70 years old now, and I've walked a long journey in this industry, as I will tell you a little bit later. And as you know, we all, as soon as we're born, we travel on this road called life. And the road that we choose is determined in many ways by a number of things. For example, our childhood road is determined by others. So when you're born, when you're a child, the road that you travel is determined by your parents, grandparents, by extended family, by your country, by your religion, by culture, by your education and opportunities. That is chosen by others and opportunities laid before you. The adult road, and many of you are entering the serious adult road when you start college, that is determined by the foundation that you laid and by the roads that you choose to follow. So let's talk about, first of all, the road that I walked, and then you can determine later what road you want to do. My road as a child started in my hometown in Augsburg, in the southern part of Germany. Augsburg is a 2,050-year-old city that was founded by Romans in about 2,100 years ago. My family were typical Germans. I was born in 1950. My father used to work at a company called GNIHM for 55 years. He was a metal draftsman and went to work at 5 o'clock in the morning and came back at 6 or 7 at night, 6 days a week. He rode his bicycle to work. It was summertime, wintertime, didn't matter. My mom was a seamstress. She worked at home and then raised my brother and my sister. My brother and sister were born to another father, my mom's first husband, who was a soldier in World War II, who was killed in Russia as World War II took its toll. My country is Germany, with all its culture, with all its traditions, and I grew up in a typical German family. Number of funny stories. My mom, maybe as many as moms in India, raised us with fear. So the way she disciplined us was scare the daylights out of you if you did something wrong. For example, when I was 6 years old, she was making cookie dough, and when she was looking, I took a spoon and ate some cookie dough. So when she turned around, she saw me, and she got really mad, and she came over and said, "So, now you ate cookie dough, you're gonna get worms in your stomach, and the worms are gonna eat your stomach, and at nighttime they're gonna come out of your mouth, and you're gonna die." I didn't sleep for 6 weeks because every time my stomach moved, I thought worms are gonna come out of my stomach. So that's how she raised us, that's how she was. My father, as I said, was a very hardworking man. He went to work for all these years. When I was 14, I had to choose what road I was going to follow in my profession. I really wanted to be a baker, but about 4 weeks before my baking apprenticeship, the apprenticeship site closed, the baker had died, and I had to choose another profession. So my teacher, who was my great inspiration, early inspiration, he found this apprenticeship for me in this hotel in my hometown, and I started as an apprentice for 5 years. It was a very interesting time. It was hard. It was a lot of hours. We had to get up very early, get to the kitchens, make a fire. We didn't have gas at that time. We had to make coal fire in the hearth. And by then 6 o'clock, we had to change in our whites and then cook till about 3 in the afternoon, then go home, then come back at nighttime. So it was very tough, but we learned a lot. Today, we don't do that anymore, I know. So then the road I chose after my apprenticeship, pretty much, I went the culinary and hospitality road. That's the road that you have chosen. For whatever reason, I think there are 800 people here. There are probably 800 different reasons why you're getting into this field. So why this road? Why did I choose it? And you can fill in for you, why are you going into this, choose the road of hospitality or culinary? Let me give you the upside that I experienced over the decades that I've been in this industry. This industry, to me, is one of the most fulfilling global, a career with the most fulfilling and most global opportunities that you can choose. When you're working in hotels, obviously, you can go pretty much in any part of the country, any part of the world. It has one of the most opportunities of any career, and has the most job security of any career. There are about 15 plus million restaurants around the world. These are restaurants that are full service, probably not fine dining, but upscale type restaurants, and growing at staggering numbers. There are about 187,000 hotels in the world. These are major hotels. I'm not talking about the smaller mom and pop hotels or the smaller, local type hotels. 870,000, and in about 10, 15 years, that number is increasing by about 50 to 60%. That means people need workers, people need staff, people need workers in the front desk, in the back of the house, all kinds of different careers. The hospitality industry as a whole is growing, not only in hotels, but other areas. The gross revenue by 2025 is estimated to grow 5% and reach about $500 billion a year in terms of revenue. I know numbers in your age don't mean a lot, but to us that mean that these numbers are staggering, and the opportunities are real staggering as well. But above all, I learned that this industry has the ability to provide joy, pleasure, and happiness to people. You give of yourself, and whenever I was talking to the students that I worked at Johnson Wales, and just a kind of note about Johnson Wales. Johnson Wales is one of the leading hotel and culinary schools in the United States. We have four campuses, one in Providence, Rhode Island, one in Charlotte, North Carolina, one in Denver, Colorado, and another one in Miami. And the school was founded with a very small vision of what a school could be eventually. The school had about 100 students in culinary arts in 1973. And when I left, I retired from the school as a dean, we had over 6,500 students at the school. I started Johnson Wales in 1988 after spending 26 years in the industries. And as I told you earlier, after I finished my apprenticeship program, I left, I went to Switzerland and worked in a hotel for a while. Then I came back and worked in another operation in Munich, and then worked in a mountain resort in the mountains of Bavaria. I had a great time until one day I got a letter from the German government, the military, that they had some interest in me coming to them to spend some time with them. So I got drafted. We had the draft in those days, and I went to the military. And it was a lesson that I learned. I went to the board. I don't know if you have been to the military, but you have to take physical examination. They have to do the mental examination and your aptitude. So the officer in charge handed me a paper, said you can pretty much go in any category. Which one do you want to go to? And being young, I wanted to travel. So I said, I want to join the Navy. I want to be on the ship and go see the world. And he said, okay. So the day went by, we had to do some more exercises, and in late afternoon, he came in and handed me my papers. And on the papers, it said, the draft, your military time will start in September of 1968, and you will be in the mountain troopers. So I have to go to an Army Ranger, Special Force Unit. And I looked at him, I said, I think there's a mistake on the paper. I want to go to the Navy. And he just looked at me and smiled and said, well, welcome to the military. You get exactly the opposite of that what you want. And make sure you understand that, because sometimes in life that's what you get, exactly the opposite of what you want. After the military, I went to finish up, and it was a great time. I learned a lot. I learned my physical limits. After that, I went back to my hometown and worked for a catering company, a luxury catering company, and worked there for about 5 years. And then in 1979, I wanted to explore the United States, and I went to college in the US. I went not for culinary, but I went for seminary to go into the ministry to become a pastor. And I spent there 5 years, and I met my wife during that time. I met my wife in January of 1975, January of 1975. Her birthday was January 19th. 1 week later, we were engaged. So whatever you do, don't ever do that. It's not a good idea. And about 4 months later, we got married. And a lot of people keep asking me, we're now married almost 40 some years, and we had obviously you have your ups and downs. So people always ask me, did you ever consider divorce in all these years? Because you only knew you for like a week each other. I said, no, we never ever talked about divorce, but there were several murder attempts. Because life gets troublesome sometimes. So, I have one son and one daughter, and I think I talked about this the last time because that's the love of my life, and I talk about this a little bit later. So I met my wife. We went to work after my seminary studies. I went down south, and I worked in the industry, and then in 1979, we went back to the United States. During that time, another episode of unknown is a lot of things that I will tell you in a little bit later when I get in some more of the details. After that time in the US in '79, we decided to go back to Germany, or I decided. Not a bad idea when you're married. You don't make one-sided decisions, because I came home, I had enough of the US, and I wanted to go home. I called my brother, I want to come home to Germany, and he said, okay, I'll send you a ticket, come home. But I never talked to my wife about this. I just went home and said, we're going to Germany. And she just looked at me and said, well, you will go for a visit? I said, nope, we're going to stay there. Not a good idea. In marriage, you have to have a partnership. You can't just simply decide on your own. So we continued our life in Germany for 5 years. I went back and got my certified master chef, and because that was needed at the time for my career. And then I want to talk a little bit now, because after that things have changed when I came back, the downside of this industry. Because as every industry has an upside, there's a downside. And you better remember that, because that will be part of it, and it's not going to change anytime soon. So if you go into that industry, you have to know that. Many times we have people that give speeches and they talk only about the great stuff that you can do in the kitchen, the great stuff you can do in the hotels and so on. But there's a downside, as you know. In the hotel and the hospitality industry, you work long hours. There's just no way around. It's gotten better, and many companies realize that quality of life is very important, but it's still long hours. You have to work weekends. I don't know if that's important to you, but in most cases, you know, hotels, kitchens, restaurants, they're open 7 days a week, and you have to be there to serve the guests. You have to work nighttime, because people go out at nighttime. Sometimes you have unruly guests, and I can tell you stories and stories about unruly guests and things that happens with guests. One funny story, it wasn't an unruly incident, but I was a executive chef at one of the hotels in Germany, and we had a lot of our guests come in from overseas, and they have these passion plays every 10 years. And we had a lot of American people come, and our restaurant was on the 35th floor. And on a particular weekend, I was the manager on duty for the weekend. And the restaurant was full with guests. There was a couple from the United States sitting up in one little corner of the side, and the husband, they had a soup, a consomme, and she had something else. And all of a sudden, the husband had a massive heart attack. And they just told me he just looked up in the air and he fell forward with his head facing the soup. And you can imagine what kind of chaos that caused. We had to clear the restaurant, the police had to come, the coroner had to come. So this was Sunday evening. The hospital had to send city government had to send officials out to pick up the body. And the wife, of course, was horrified. She was absolutely horrified. The other guests were upset because they had to leave. They couldn't stay in the restaurant. And you had to deal with all these problems with all the different people. What are you going to tell people? And they wanted to know if the person died because of food poisoning, which was not the case. So we have a lot of chaos to deal with, and with unruly guests and how you handle that. And we did. We were very calm. We had a restaurant manager who was sometimes a little nervous. He was nervous himself. But then the people came to pick up the body, and that was kind of the morbid, funny part. They put the body in the casket. It was like a